Hi, everyone. My name is Tamara Bucky. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're doing an Ask Me Anything. I've been getting questions since our first podcast episode went out, and I've been collecting them for a time when I wanted to sit down and start answering them on a video. So I wanted to start doing that today. I've got a lot of really good questions. And if you have any questions that you want to ask me, topics you want me to cover, please reach out. I would love to answer them on a future video. So the first one I'll start with is, what is Raise Your Own Bar and what do you stand for? Well, Raise Your Own Bar is my personal philosophy in life. It started out as just kind of a mantra, a way to motivate myself. And then it became a way of life. And now I teach others how to raise their bar. And it's different for everyone, but at its core, continuous improvement. Every day, strive to be better than you were the day before in whatever area that is for you, whatever area it needs to be for you. Fitness, mental health, technical skills, relationship skills, working on your friendships, working on your relationship with your mother, learning how to do something new, improving your existing skills, fill in the blank. What is it that you need to raise your bar in? For me, I'm a work in process. I always have been and I always will be. I'm sure that's how you are too. It just comes down to continuing to want to do better and be better. We're flawed humans. We act a lot on instinct and emotion, and we are like bulls in a china shop in a lot of ways, but we have the capacity for greatness and the capacity to learn and teach others from our best practices, from our lessons, from our broken china. So that's what Raise Your Own Bar is all about. And as far as what we stand for, I'm going to pull up our website. So there you go, Raise Your Own Bar. We're a woman-owned small business that serves organizations by providing training, coaching, and consulting tailored to fit your needs. We do all kinds of stuff. We want to help you improve, whether it be at an individual level or with your team, with your organization, with your business, and so on. So we've got some services for each, but I wanted to show you our values. Our mission is to spark positive change in individuals, teams, and organizations. We accomplish our mission by creating entertaining and educational content that empowers your workforce. And some of our core values include: don't make excuses, take 100% responsibility, make the best of each situation. Excuses do nothing except possibly alleviate your own guilt, maybe. You got to take 100% responsibility of everything in your life. Yes, things happen to you, but how you react to them matters more than what happens. And we have to make the best of each situation. No matter what happens to us in life, there is a silver lining. You can turn a negative into a positive in every circumstance. Embrace change. Nothing is more reasonable to expect in the future than change. It's coming, it's constantly moving, and if we don't adapt and embrace it, we're going to get left behind and we're only going to get frustrated. Never stop learning. You always should be acknowledging that you don't know everything, and because you don't know everything, you should learn about whatever it is that you're involved with, your work, your hobbies, family, relationships, mental health, neuroscience. I mean, there's so many things. I've been on a kick lately learning all about Scottish history. I was researching my own ancestry, and I found some lineage that was fascinating and had some well-known figures that had Wikipedia pages and whatnot. And so I went down a rabbit hole of learning about them and learning about the time period. And it's just, I love it. Am I really going to use that knowledge besides conversationally? No. but it was interesting and it ties to my heritage, so that makes it personal. Got to hold yourself accountable when it comes to your word, your responsibilities, the things that you agreed to do, the things that you volunteered to do, the things that all human beings should be doing for themselves. You got to do it. And you got to hold yourself accountable if you don't do it. We have to be the example for other people to follow. When we don't hold up our end of the bargain, even to ourselves, we lose credibility. Have an open heart and mind. People are always going to be different. There are so many different types of people out there in the world. They look different, they sound different, they believe different things, they have different histories and cultures and practices and norms and expectations. However, at our core, human beings are all the same. We want the same things. We want to be understood. We want to be acknowledged as a human. We want to be heard and be able to express ourselves. We want freedom and safety and security and love. And we want a future for our kids. That's it. So find the common humanity with everyone you encounter, no matter how different from you they might be. Seek growth and development constantly, not just learning, but trying new things, expanding your horizon, even just trying different foods, meeting strangers, going to different parts of town, doing things differently. We're growing all the time. If we stop growing, we're dead. And trust the process. Things don't happen overnight. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with others. Be patient with the universe. And when things go wrong, it's okay. It's all part of it. It's all part of the process. Things will go wrong. But you know what? When things go wrong, that's when you get tested. I love the quote by Franklin Roosevelt. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. How could you learn how to navigate the waters when they're smooth the whole time you're sailing them? You can't. The same is true for life, your career, your family, whatever that might be. Next question. When did you start raising the bar? I mean, since birth, right? Because I had to learn things. I learned how to talk, walk, my colors, my shapes, my numbers, how to read, etc. But it really became a part of me when I was probably 16 or so. I started my first job. Well, I had started working before then, but this was my first consistent job. And I started saving money to be able to buy a house. Yes, I saved money at 16 years old to buy a house, as well as started buying furniture and storing it up for my future house. And by the time I turned 18 and graduated, I had a 30-year plan for my life and for my career. I also had furniture to be able to move right into my own place. And I bought a house at 18 years old. It was $36,000. My mortgage was $326 a month. And I went to college and, you know, continued to raise my bar ever since. But I really became aware of it probably when I was 16 or so. How have you raised your bar this year? Well, this year I have been in a coaching class since May. That's a big one. Learning how to be an accredited coach with the International Coaching Federation. And that has been a really rewarding and sometimes challenging journey. We meet every week for 3 hours. We are learning all of the different types of coaching skills. We're examining our own behaviors, and I've had breakthroughs so many times in this class, pretty much every week. It's very, very eye-opening for my own behavior. It's helping me understand myself and unpack things, behaviors, past pains, patterns, etc. So really enjoying it. I'm almost done with that journey though. I have 2 more classes, and then I will be evaluated on some coaching calls, and then I will eventually sit for the exam when I'm ready, but I got to do some more studying. So my goal is to have it done by the end of this year, to have my certificate completely done by the end of December. But that's definitely one way I've raised the bar this year. And I've learned a lot of other little things. I've taken a lot of trainings. I constantly have to take training to keep up my certifications. So I'm always learning, and I'm always trying new things and putting them to practice in my life when and where I can. How can I motivate myself to start working on my goals again after a huge setback or an extended break? That's a really good question. Well, two different things. So, a huge setback. I've been there. I've bombed. I have flopped. I have fallen short. And then I had to take a step back and evaluate what happens. Would I do it again? What would I do differently? Is this even part of my journey going forward? Or was this something, depends on the circumstances, but sometimes you try things just so you can learn what you don't want. After an extended break, you got to evaluate your priorities from scratch. Maybe you had them in the past, and this is good after a setback as well. Reevaluate your priorities. Are you doing things that are in line with those priorities or not? Did you fail for a reason, possibly because it's not in line with your priorities? Maybe deep down, it's not something you want to be doing. I know I've experienced that. I'll sabotage myself sometimes if it's something that's not really in line with what I want long term. But your priorities are what should be driving your habits and your behaviors, the way you spend your time day in and day out. The tasks you're doing should all be in alignment with getting you closer towards your goals, and your goals should be lined up with your priorities. Your priorities include things like, what do you really care about? Is it growing your career? Is it making more money? Is it building better relationships with your kids? Repairing your relationship with a parent, building a stronger relationship with your spouse, getting better on the technical side of your career so that you can make more money, get promoted, figure out if you want to go back to school, et cetera, et cetera. What are the things that you can do as goals to enrich those priorities? Those are the things you should be focused on. And then all of your behaviors, your tasks, the way you spend your time every day needs to align with that. So let me show you a scorecard. This is something I use as a tool when I'm coaching people or teaching classes about priorities. So here it is. It's very simple. Write down your priorities, the goals, the timeline or frequency of whatever that thing might be, how you're going to measure the success, what was your last action, and what are your next steps. And here is something I put together. This is for a middle school kid. So insert your own information mentally as we go through it. But this is just an example of what a priority scorecard might look like for a middle schooler. So what are their priorities? Well, spending time with their family and friends, bringing up their grades, learning how to play guitar might be a priority, learning something, learning a skill, learning a hobby. Maybe they're on a team, a sports team, or in the band or something. So their priority would be whatever that is, in this case, softball. And then maybe they're already thinking ahead to high school. So one of their priorities will be to survive high school and graduate. But first, we got to get them through middle school, right? So what would their goals look like that would line with those priorities? So if your priorities are your family and friends, then your goals might be to spend more quality time with them. Well, how do you decide how frequently? Well, what's realistic based on your schedule? So in this case, weekly. Weekly, spending more quality time with the family and friends. What are the success measures? Well, they do spend the time together. What's the last action? They scheduled movie night for Friday. The next step is to figure out what movie to watch. And so that's a very personal thing, but you could fill in the blank with your kids, with your mom and dad, with your husband, wife, etc. Next one, their priorities are to bring up their grades. Maybe they're not doing so good right now. So their goals would be to get A's and B's. Their timeline or frequency would be for the rest of the year, and their success measure will be on their report card, which are every 9 weeks, I believe. So their last action was they set aside extra time to study, and their next steps are going to be to come up with a study plan and start. And then if you are, let's say you're part of a team, we'll jump down to softball. Their goal is to make the team. Maybe in this case, they're not even on the softball team. They want to be. What do? Well, they want to make the team. They want to be able to make spring tryouts. So they're practicing 3 hours every weekend. That may or may not be enough. The success measure will be if they make the team. And the last action, they practiced on Sunday and they plan on practicing this Saturday. Well, they probably need to schedule more than 3 hours a week if they want to make the team, but at least that is something and that is measurable. And just in general, you want all of your goals to be measurable, following the SMART criteria: specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, relevant, and time bound. So that's just my little scorecard. Fill in the blank for yourself. It's a very simple way to just check in with yourself and see, what are you doing with your life? Is it in alignment? Evaluate your behavior. Do some reflection on what you've been spending your time on lately. Is it in alignment with this? With what you have on your scorecard? Do you need to revise your scorecard? I have to go back and look at mine quarterly and see, what are my priorities still? Am I working towards them? Keep yourself in check. Next question. How can I encourage my family to raise their bars? That is a tough one because we always want to help other people improve, right? But we can't make them. People have to want to change, or you're going to try to frustrate yourself by trying to make them change. You can't make people change. So the best thing I would say is be a light, be positive, show them what you're doing, not in a bragging way, but look how I'm raising my bar. These are the things that I said I was going to do at the beginning of the year, and now look, I've accomplished them. Is there anything that you would be interested in achieving for this year or next year? Ask them. If they say no, then all right. Depending on who it is, you might probe and try to figure out why. A lot of times people are overwhelmed. They've got too much going on. They're in survival mode. It's hard to make goals for yourself when you're in survival mode, whether it be physically, mentally, financially, emotionally, just depends on what's going on in their lives. But depression is something I see. People don't want to work on themselves at all when they're depressed. And I get it. They might need some intervention. They might need some therapy or to go visit a doctor. Be there for people. Offer support. Demonstrate good values, and always be open to, lend an ear or a word of advice if the time arises. But don't preach to people. Don't tell people what to do, because it doesn't work. Telling people what to do backfires every time. If you tell them something, they don't want to do it. And if you tell them not to do something, they want to do it. The only person you should be telling anybody what to do is you, and maybe your kids, if you have kids. Last question. How do you bridge the divide with people in your family with different beliefs? Well, that is a challenge. That is a challenge. And right now we're very divided within our families. Some families have no relationships anymore with their kids, with their spouses, with their parents, because of politics, because of ideologies, and any number of things. And that can be very difficult. I like to remember that everybody's human. We all have connections that we can make with people. And if we can put those differences aside and just focus on the things we have in common, that's enough to start with. And if you have a strained relationship with someone, that's what I would encourage you to do. Focus on the common things and be the bigger person. Yeah, that means sometimes swallowing your pride, biting your tongue, refraining from stooping to people's levels. If they go low, ignore it. Hurt people hurt people. When someone lashes out at you, you want to lash out back. I get that. Be the bigger person and show that you don't have to live that way. Demonstrate the kind of ethics that you want other people to learn. So if a family member comes at you during Thanksgiving and says something political, do your best not to even comment. Okay, cool. Congratulations. Say something very basic and keep it moving. Yeah, I don't really want to get into politics today, Uncle Frank. And, sometimes you have to be firm with your barrier. Sometimes you have to say, hey, I understand we have different beliefs. I'd rather not talk about that here. Let's not bring that up today. This is Thanksgiving, and, I would rather not discuss that with you. And maybe at a later point, you can schedule time to talk about that thing. Maybe that thing really does need to be talked about, whether it be differing political beliefs or ideologies or, a discussion about something that's happening in the world or whatever the case may be. Communication is good. You need to talk to your family, and we have to learn how to do the hard conversations. These difficult conversations about uncomfortable topics where we don't agree. And, some of the big ones that are being debated right now, you always hear about abortion. Politics is definitely a thing when it comes to immigration and war and the various things that are happening in the United States. We have a new president-elect, and half the world loves him, half the world hates him. What do you do? I have both of those people in my family. I'm still going to be around them. I'm still going to have conversations with them, not about those topics. I don't want to talk politics at Thanksgiving, and I'll do my best not to. And if there are conversations that come up, I will keep it moving. I don't need to share my opinions with people. Why do we always need to share our opinions with people? And even if somebody is sharing their opinions with us, that doesn't mean we have to comment on it. We could just go, cool. I'm glad you believe that, and keep it moving. There are many ways to shut down those types of conversations so that they don't end up getting heated, because that's what happens, right? We get into heated conversations because we have differing beliefs. Is one side more right than the other? It really just depends on your values. Everybody has their own value system, and we all need to realize that. Our individual value system is what determines our beliefs and our behaviors and our character. So if you're not sure what your values are or your beliefs, sit down and think about it. It's worth doing that work. It's worth not only finding out what they are, but why you believe them. If you're pro this or anti that, why? Dig down into your psyche, into your past. What is it based on? Is it based on truth? Is it based on opinion? Is it based on a false belief? It's good to look at our beliefs and understand where they come from and ask, does it serve us? Anyway, that's enough for today. I hope you enjoyed this Ask Me Anything episode, and please send me your questions because this is great. I still have a bunch more on the list, but that's all we have time for at this time. So I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Raise Your Own Bar podcast.